Hey, welcome to this episode of Coffee with John. Looking forward to talking with Dr. Jennifer Berry, CEO of Smart Labs. I've been looking forward to this conversation, Jennifer, because I think what you do is pretty critically important for the world today. And that is education and educating K through 12th grade using STEM, which we'll get into a little bit of detail about that. It seems to me, of the many people that I talk to and things that I see, that the way we educate our children starting at a very young age needs to evolve. It needs to evolve for where we are today and to get everybody ready for tomorrow with AI and everything under the umbrella of AI. You
Mhm.
seem to be doing that. You seem to be doing it very successfully. And so, talk a little bit about just, if we can get things started, the importance of how we shift education in today's world.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate being here. I love having coffee with John. My dad's name is spelled the same way, so I appreciate a good
Okay.
Jon.
Good, good. Is he a Jonathan? Is he a Jonathan?
No, he's just John,
All right,
Jon.
I'm a Jonathan, John for short.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. I
Yeah,
gotcha. Yeah. So thank you for having me. I appreciate
yeah,
being here.
thank you for being here.
Yeah, so STEM learning actually isn't new, but what is new is this sort of mindset shift, right? So what we've done at Smart Lab is really redefined the definition of STEM identity, right? So most of the time in school districts, when they were doing STEM learning, they were doing what we call random acts of STEM, right? Get students excited about the STEM
Yeah,
fields, get students excited about playing with robots, maybe doing some coding, and that is what school districts over the years have done with learning. What we've done is really codify this definition of STEM identity. And STEM identity, especially as you referred to in this AI powered world that we live in, is really critical because it's less about learning how to use the STEM applications and more about a mindset. So, how we've defined STEM identity is that you belong, like students have a belief that they belong, their ideas add value, and they can master rigorous challenges. So when you think about our lives as leaders, and as functioning adults in the workforce, we have failed many times, right? And we have learned through failure. And so in this AI powered world where AI can do a lot of the coding, it can do a lot of the robot building, it can, if you prompt it correctly, it can answer questions really quickly. But if we don't have students that can discern those answers or to ask the right prompts or to be the people that, or be the adults that learn through failure and try something and maybe use AI to enhance it, but not to have AI do it for them. If
yeah,
we don't have students have that mindset that I belong, I add value, I can master rigorous challenges, we're going to have AI leading the next workforce of the future versus the students coming out into the workforce leading AI. Right.
yeah.
And so that's the biggest difference. And so when we think about STEM identity, we really think about this identity, this mindset. And we get that through lots of little aha moments that we do through project-based learning. So hands-on project-based learning. And of course, we're going to teach students STEM applications because it's important in a STEM learning environment that you use STEM applications. And when we think about the school districts, as you referred to, this notion, this concept of, hey, we probably should be thinking about how to use AI applications and in even the classroom setting for basic reading, writing, and math, not just like put them in a lab and have them learn in the lab, but also have it bleed through every single subject so that they're learning to solve problems through their learning opposed to just learning to take a test.
Yeah.
So that learning is different here. We've got it on our sign behind me, is really critical for us because learning is different here is this concept of hands-on project-based learning has to be integrated into the school districts, has to be integrated using STEM applications, using this concept of STEM identity so that students can come out with those durable skills so that they can do what's uniquely human,
Yeah.
and AI can do the things that can drive scale and scalability and repetition and sustainability.
So let me ask you this. So I want to go back to belong, value, and what was it? Rigorous.
Mastering rigorous challenges.
So when you say belong, are you saying, hey, everybody belongs, you belong, you deserve a seat at the table? And then what is that? What exactly does that mean? That's the way I interpret.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
and then once you sit down, you better bring value. And once you bring
Mhm.
value, you're going to be challenged with rigorous challenges, and you have to be able to think on your feet, and you have
Mhm.
to be able to listen, ask questions,
Mhm.
and contribute. So just because you sit, like to me, the way that you bookend it, to me, the way I interpret that is, you can sit at the table. Everybody has the right, but you
Mhm.
also must be ready to bring value and hold your own. If I interpret,
Yeah, I really I like how you framed that. I think that's a really good framing. The seat at the table though starts even before that. So when we
100%,
say
yeah,
I belong, it's about, do I know how to use STEM applications? Because if you think about it, there's no industry, no job that's current or that hasn't even been invented yet that isn't going to use STEM applications, right?
describe
We're using it
STEM.
here.
Describe STEM for someone who's listening and doesn't know what it is.
Well, STEM acronym is science, technology, engineering, and math, right? But STEM applications, artificial intelligence, so AI is a STEM application, right? Circuitry and electronics, those are like the obvious ones. But communications and multimedia, what we're doing here now, is STEM applications.
Yeah,
Data collection and analysis, which every industry uses, information technology, mechanics and structures, modeling and design, robotics, and maybe circuitry technology or any kind of technology. So STEM, although there's initials, science, technology, engineering, and math, the reason why we've sort of shifted it from STEM into more of a STEM identity is that you can use any of those STEM applications that I listed in any career. There's really not any industry in any career that doesn't use STEM applications, even the arts, even sports,
yeah,
right? I was having a great conversation with a golfer the other day, and he said, oh, our golfers have STEM identity the way you've explained it, because they have to think about angles. They have to think about failing, because you're going to hit a lot of balls before you get one on the field where you want it to go. So on the course where you want it to go. So this idea that STEM identity cuts across, because it cuts across all industries and all jobs and all even things that you do for fun,
yeah.
is really critical. And so that belonging is that belief that I can use STEM applications, right? And I feel empowered that I can sit at that table. So it's almost that right before you sit at that table, as you've described it, you have that belief system that you belong at that table.
So
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about under the umbrella of courage for a minute.
Yeah.
I want to kind of back up with a couple of things that you're making me think about. I think it was in the 1970s. I can't remember exactly. And I think it may have been Harvard. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but there was something called the marshmallow experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Marshmallow experiment is where they put
Yeah.
a kid in a room and they say, here's a marshmallow.
Mm-hmm.
If you can eat it and you have 15 minutes by yourself, you can either eat it, but if you don't eat it, then you'll get a second marshmallow.
Yeah.
And what it showed was that the kids who could not eat it and wait for the delayed gratification were more successful in life. I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
giving the abridged version.
Mm-hmm.
So that was delayed versus instant gratification. In 2008, there was an article in The Atlantic called "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" And what it was talking about was that technology is rewiring our brains. And it's rewiring our
Sure.
brains and getting rid of delayed gratification and really
Mm-hmm.
pushing more of an instant gratification. Fast forward,
Mm-hmm.
that was in 2008. Now we're in 2026.
Mm-hmm.
We're teaching what I'm hearing you say, the mindset of belonging at a table. It's great. That's great. That you need to bring value. Where I want to kind of talk about where I see things falling apart. What concerns me the most is
Mm-hmm.
the part of the meeting at the table when someone is challenged rigorously, as you can
Yeah.
put in your trio, because the tools that people need to not take things
Yeah.
personally, to have a potential grandiose mindset that they belong at the table, but then they need to bring value at the table,
Mm-hmm.
and that they may get challenged how they will respond to that
Mm-hmm.
because they want this instant. My concern is that people just want instant, praise or instant this or that was this, but that's
Yeah.
not real life. And so, how do we work backwards from that?
Well, yeah, I agree. That's the biggest question that even the workforce of the future companies have, right? Are we going to be having individuals that hit our floors that cannot deal with hard things, that cannot answer,
right? That crumble, correct.
Yeah. And so what we try to do, even with 5-year-olds.
One more thing to add.
Yeah.
Because I do think, and I've read books on Gen Z and studied and interviewed people on this podcast, and I don't know if it's fair for, I'm 54 years old, but a lot of these kids are just thrown content and news and negativity that we were protected from. They're not able to go on a walk. So at the end of their day, they're probably more exhausted than we are because they have way more stuff coming that their nervous system doesn't know how to handle. All right. So make sense of all that I
love that challenge that you're putting on the floor, right? Because it's a challenge. It's a challenge for educators. It's a challenge for us as parents. It's a challenge for the community to think about how are we crafting and allowing kids to be kids longer and then to learn how to fail, right? We're the same age. So how many times did we go out and by ourselves? Our parents didn't know where we were on our bikes and we had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. And we had to get into trouble without any technology. And we had to learn how to build a fort, and it broke, and we had to do it again and come back the next day and try it again until that fort worked. Right. And that's not happening as much anymore. That is why we at Smart Lab are so focused on this hands-on project-based learning, because if businesses and school districts join hands and say, listen, we have to demand resources, money, and time into school districts to give hands-on project-based learning to kids, so that you're almost manufacturing what you and I got naturally when we were kids, right? So at Smart Lab, what we do is we put a problem in front of a kid. Facilitator, we call them facilitators on purpose. So even if it's a teacher, certified teacher, we call them, when they're doing our applications, a facilitator, because they're not there to teach. They're there to say, here's some STEM applications. Here's the problem you're trying to solve. Here's a team, or either you as an individual or a team of other kids that you get to figure out how to solve the problem in a hands-on project-based way. And so these kids have to roll up their sleeves and figure out how to solve a world problem, a real industry world problem. And when you manufacture it that way, that's where you get those, when we talk about aha moments, those are those aha moments where then they start to build that resilience. They start to build that ingredient that us Gen Xers got by nature of just failing in the world, right? But
I have a question. So are the facilitators, because what I love about what you're doing is you seem to be on the front lines of the transformation and evolution of this. Are your facilitators watching them struggle with the answer and letting them struggle to find it?
Yes. In fact, we certify our facilitators to do that. So most teachers, because they're innately wanting to be of service, right? Teachers are innately wanting to be of service. They're trained how to teach something, right? How to break it down, how to scaffold the learning. We actually train the facilitators out of that. So we say, actually, no, there's no teaching. There's no scaffolding the learning. You're there to support. You don't want the student to get so frustrated that they give up. But even sometimes in the giving up, there's learning. Right. So we really teach the facilitator how to not engage, even when there's frustration, even when there's arguments among the team members. Right. Because you've got to let them productively struggle. Right. There has to be a productive struggle moment for kids to learn. Right. I think about my life, and the best learning for me was when I was struggling. Right. Or when I failed and I had to sit back and go, man, that didn't work. Or when I engaged with the person that wasn't thinking like me, right? I was in a team environment and we were maybe at odds and we had to work through that, right? So that we certify our facilitators in order to teach them we really are teaching the adults how to reteach and engage with students so that there's productive struggle happening. So that's really key. And to be honest, in this AI powered world, we have to teach these durable skills to these kids. Here's a great example. And this is with somebody that works for me. And we are in a STEM environment. We talk about this all the time. I said to them, hey, I want to do a brainstorming session with you about this problem that we were trying to solve. I'm like, but it's a brainstorming. I just want to get on. And we're a virtual organization. So we got online and I said, let's throw up a whiteboard on the screen and let's just brainstorm. And I said, here's the problem we're trying to solve. I immediately, John, saw them typing immediately.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay. And I was throwing out ideas and I'm trying to pull from my brain. And they start rattling off some really sophisticated answers. And I said, did you just type that in Claude? Did you just type that in ChatGPT? Did you just actually? And she said, yeah, I did. And I said, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. I said, I want a brainstorm. I want your brain to have to search for the answer.
Yeah.
I want you to say something that maybe isn't the right answer. I don't want us to just go straight to a source and it spits out 4 nice bullet points, right? And then we're done with this discussion. I want your brain to struggle through this. And I want you and I to struggle to get to an answer. At the end of that, when we've come up with maybe 3 solutions, we can maybe then throw that in AI and say, hey, refine this, or give us reasons why this would or wouldn't work, right? And then that's how you scale an answer. But don't start with it. So we really work at Smart Lab to force 5-year-olds to not start with Google, not start with Claude, not start with AI, right? Because if you do start there, you don't have to think. You don't have to use your unique brain, and your brain actually, and you said it best, isn't forming the neurons that will then catapult you to the next answer or to the next challenge or to be transferable to a harder challenge that you're faced with, right? And so we really, with our facilitators, with our school districts, with in our curriculum, when we're building our curriculum, to force that productive struggle and be okay with, they might not be able to get this answer and it's fine. They might not be able to solve this world industry problem that we're putting in front of them, and that's good. But we need to be making sure we're teaching them also industry challenges, not just test answers that they're going to forget, right? Because when you and I were learning in school, it was memorize, test, forget, right? And our real learning came from real world stuff that we had to deal with. And so we're really trying to infuse that into schools, because we know when they get home, they're on video games, they're on their phones, they're scrolling and getting that dopamine hits through the algorithms that are put in front of them. So we're working really hard to sort of strip that away and force this manufactured way to get them that STEM identity that we're referring to.
I love that. I'm a business coach. I work with business people and salespeople, and I work, and when I do keynotes and workshops, one of the workshops that it's a crowd favorite, Jennifer, is what's the very next best question? And so we'll go around the room. It doesn't matter if there's, 10 people or 60 people or 100 people. Sometimes we'll break up into groups, but it's so we put a scenario on the table. And then we say, okay, what's the very next best question?
I love that.
And if it's not the best question, the group says it can be tighter, it can be this. You got it, because it works on your listening skills, and you have to use your intuitiveness and a combination with your brain. So really, it's probably one of my most popular workshops I do.
I love it.
Especially for salespeople and for leaders, because everybody they need more of that, right? They need more of that. Trusting their gut and kind of pausing for a minute and finding their pause.
Mm-hmm. What I love about what you just said is it's even beyond the 5 whys, right? We've always heard the 5 whys is you ask why. But what you're doing is pushing like, no, what's the next best question? And that forces somebody not to go, well, let me just tell you what I think, but opposed to like, oh, I got to +1 that, or I've got to question that, or I've got to and that, opposed to or that. So that's really powerful. I love that.
So my question to you is, thank you. My question to you is, how is Smart Lab working to 2 things? 1, teach these kindergartners through 12th graders to 1, find their pause when they are in real time, right? When they're in that kind of rigorous challenge moment. And how do you teach people to recalibrate their nervous system, which seems to be a very important thing right now, especially for that age group?
Yeah. A lot of it is about putting the challenge in front of them and letting them explore to get to an answer. Right. So, and because we have a STEM learning environment, so our learning environments are a full ecosystem, right? So we have many STEM applications that we put into our rooms, either our rooms that we design or a corner of the library at a school district or in a closet that teachers can pull from. And so there's a lot of opportunities for a student to go find something and try to get the answer from that STEM application that they get to use. And that sort of freedom to explore is really where we push through that nervous system issue. Because if you're using something and it's not working, right? I watched my daughter the other day and she was coding. She's got a cool robot that she codes, and she was getting really frustrated because it wasn't doing what she wanted it to do.
Yeah.
And she gave up. Well, I'm a STEM CEO, so I've got many different STEM applications for her to go to. And I watched her go to the garage and go pick up something else and start tinkering with that. Yeah. And that gave me such joy, because it's like, I could have, as a parent, jumped in and said, oh, let me help you code it, or let me help you fix it. But I just let her get frustrated. She kind of kicked over the robot, and then she went over into the garage and grabbed something else and started tinkering. Yeah. And for me, that was a real moment of, right, that's what we do in these classroom settings. We allow kids to just go, that didn't work, I'm annoyed, and be okay with that. Yeah. Because that's recalibrating your nervous system, right? Yeah. Recalibrating your nervous system is sometimes walking away for something. I have this statement at work where I do this stop, walk, and think, right? And it comes from the old stop, drop, and roll when we were kids. Sure. Yeah. Roll, right? And so I have this, and I teach my entire organization, and I use it myself. When I'm at a point where I'm frustrated, or I'm at a breaking point, or I'm like, I go, you know what? Put my phone down, put my computer down, stop, get outside, walk, and think. And I do not bring my phone. And I just, even if it's just one walk around the block, right? Yeah. And I live in San Diego, so I can do that often. But you could walk around your house too. And it's this stop, walk, and think moment where you can get sunshine, you can get, the air, you can get looking at other things. So your brain goes to different innovative places, and you're not stuck in the rut. And inevitably, every single time I have a new kind of kick in my step. I'm thinking differently. I might not even pick up that problem that I was trying to solve before. I might go on to something else, but I have a refreshed mindset. So this idea of stop, walk, and think is very similar to stop, drop, and roll, because there was a fire in my way. And so instead of like letting the fire burn me, I stop and I go out and walk, and then I think. And that's really been helpful. And so we really work to teach. We don't teach that exact stop, walk, and think in our smart labs, but we do have that curriculum built where they don't just figure that one thing out. They can stop that thing, go get something else, and maybe even solve a different problem, or try a different application to solve the same problem. So that's one thing. Also, I mentioned really teaching the facilitators how to be thoughtful on how to ask questions to the students. So similar to what you did in your workshop of saying, what's the next best questions? We teach the facilitator to ask those levels of questions with our students, rather than say, why don't you just try this? They'll say, tell me what you think it went wrong there. Yeah. Right. What do you think went wrong there? What do you think you could do differently? How do you think you could approach it? How about we put this away and you go maybe solve a different problem at this point? So really teaching those regulation skills to the students is really key. I'll tell you the other thing that I think is really important is bringing the outside community into our labs. So many times school districts are very, they have like one day a year, they do like a career fair, or one day a year where they bring parent volunteers into the schools. Well, we actually say that in order for kids to get the STEM application or the STEM identity is to have adults come into their world and talk about their own STEM identity. Not necessarily talk about like, I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, but instead this is how I got here. This is how many times I had to fail. This is how many times I tried something and didn't work. This is how, if I'm John, this is how many times I had to go outside and play and get my knees scraped before I could actually build the fort that I needed in order to have a playhouse or a tree house for my friends and I. So that sort of identity seeking for kids is really, really helpful. So we actually, co-create with the school district a way to bring the community into the school and not just talk about their job, but to actually talk about their STEM identity and how they got that job, how they think about that job, how they solve problems in that job. And that's really important. So we're always yearning for businesses, corporations, people, individuals to call us to try to get in partnership with school districts in their local community to create what we call STEM identity days in our school district. So we're always looking for the community to come in and to help, because that's also key for kids. It cannot just be the teachers and the school districts alone.
I think that's great. I'll just add one thing to your stop, walk, and think. A variation that I use, very similar, and it's funny because the younger generations, sometimes when I say stop, drop, and roll, they have no idea what I'm talking about.
I know. That's why when you said you were 54, I was like, he's gonna know.
You were there, right? So, but it's all another. I'm just giving another variation that I talk about, which is stop, walk, and do nothing. Unplug and do nothing, because to even think sometimes is
challenging. True.
Yeah,
I like that.
All right, we have a few minutes left together. Smart Lab, like an add-on? Is it a school? Is like, what is it? How do people access it? Where do their children do it? What kind of give the 60-second commercial of it?
Yeah, so Smart Lab is sold to school districts. So school districts purchase Smart Lab to put in their school, and Smart Lab is an ecosystem. So what I mean by that is we don't believe it's just random acts of STEM. What we believe is that you have to have an ecosystem in order to get this STEM identity, to get these aha moments that we talked about, so that kids gain this STEM identity. So what this ecosystem is, when a school district purchases us, is everything from the furniture, the environment. So we actually put in an environment for the school district. And it could be, like I mentioned, a full room that the door locks with this full ecosystem in it, or it could be in the corner of a library, or it could be even a closet that teachers can pull from to push into their classrooms. But the environment is really key into our ecosystem. The next piece is the certified facilitator. We really need to make sure we certify a facilitator and all the things that we were talking about earlier. Then we have all the kits and equipment. So we provide the school district with all these kits and equipment that we're referring to, as well as curriculum that goes along with the kits and equipment. And then the last thing, which I referred to a second ago, but that is really key in this 5 components of our ecosystem, is support and partnership. So not only do we give the school district support with our staff, we also bring the community into the school so that they can help students gain their STEM identity. And so that support and partnership for school districts creates a sustainable model that isn't just like we sell, we dump at the school and we leave. No, we sell, we give you these 5 components, and then we stay with you to bring the community in to create a sustainable STEM identity moments for your kids. And so the school districts buy, but school districts have very limited budgets, right? So whether it's, different federal reasons that there's different school districts get different budgets, local, state reasons why school districts get different budgets, and even at the local level, superintendents and principals make value choices based on what they want to put in front of their kids. So we really, really are asking the communities, businesses, philanthropists, individuals to say, hey, I want to demand hands-on project-based learning for kids. I want to demand these durable skills for kids in these K through 12 schools. So we're going to invest, meaning give money to school districts and demand that they put in organizations and ecosystems like a Smart Lab in their schools so that these kids are getting these durable skills. So we really work with school districts and their budgets. And then we also work with business partners to almost like a broker, we help them give money to school districts and then earmark them for a Smart Lab to come into the schools.
Great. I love it. All right. Quick, less than 60-second speed round. You ready, Jennifer?
I'm ready, John.
You guys are doing beautiful work. I think it's great. A book that made a big impact on you.
A book that made a big impact on me. This is going to sound really, it's going to age me, but it's called Flight of the Buffalo. I don't know if you know it, but it's a powerful book, and it really teaches ownership for your employees versus being a dependent on you as a leader.
Oh, I'm going to check that out. I have not read that one.
It's old. It's got a little bit of old school stuff in it that's a little outdated, but the concept is so rich. Yeah, so rich. Yeah.
If you could have coffee with anybody living or dead, who would it be and why?
This is going to sound cliche, but it's true. It's the truth. My grandmother, she is passed, but she was an educator, and I just would love to get in her head, a 3rd grade teacher, and ask her Why did you stay in the school for as long as you did? Because she was a teacher for years. And she's been dead for almost 15 years now. And she still has people that she taught in third grade that will Facebook message me and acknowledge how much of an impact she made in their lives. So I would love to sit with her and just ask her, what are the things you did that had kids think different?
Yeah, I love that. Jennifer, this was great. I really enjoyed this. Think Big Community, you can reach Jennifer at smartlablearning.com. And this was great. Thanks for transforming the way kids learn to have a better, more productive, more effective, wealthier, richer, more grounded future for themselves. I think it's great. And we'll have to have you on again in the future and talk more about learning and how we're teaching our youth to be the leaders of tomorrow. So again, you can reach Jennifer at smartlablearning.com. You can reach me at johndwoskin.com. Jennifer, stay on for just a second. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you being on the show. That was great. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.